What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Lopes Goes Last podcast. I am joined today by two of my best friends in the world and two of the most knowledgeable sports fans that I know, Thomas Williams, Clay Turpin. How are you guys doing today?
Not too bad. Thanks
Doing
for
great.
bringing us on.
Doing great, Lopes. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. I've really been looking forward to this for a few weeks now. Just for those of you at home, originally this interview was just going to be me and Clay, or Clay and I should say. Actually, I'm not really sure which one is the grammatically correct way to say that. But either way, it was just going to be, myself and Clay. And then, I reached out to Thomas a few days ago, asked him if he wanted to join. And on very short notice, he agreed. And thankfully, he did. We're very excited to have you guys here. And so first question for you guys, how do you guys each feel about how your guys' respective teams, how they're performing so far this season? And obviously, for those of you who do not know them, you don't know what their respective teams are. But, of course, Thomas, you are wearing your Rockies jersey, so you have given it away, so I will let you go first.
I think at our most potential as a Rockies fan, we're an 80-win ball club. 85, and we can get Chris Bryant on the horse. Right now, he's on the IL. He's got some back issues. He's been hitting the ball pretty well. He hasn't been hitting the ball out, but he's been hitting the ball over the field, which we like to see. Power hitters, CJ Cron's been mashing the ball for sure. A little bit Charlie Blackmon, a little bit Ryan McMahon. It's just nice to have a whole bunch of randomness on our team, and we exceed the expectations every season. Are we a postseason team yet? Absolutely not. But I think with the Bryant pickup, we got a good foundation for the next 2 years. I think the prospects we got from the Arenado trade, as bad as it was to see him go, man, we could possibly get some production out of the guys we got for Arenado. So, like I said, come 2 years, I think we'll be all right.
Gotcha. And Clay, how about your Cincinnati Reds, my friend?
For the most part, basically all of it's been terrible, but I guess the positive has been to watch Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. They've been called up, watch them start, but really, it doesn't even matter if they do their job because we won't get any run support. But honestly, how all Reds fans feel like it's not the players' fault or Votto's fault. Like they're trying. It's an ownership. It goes up to the ownership problem. But I think the Reds are projected to have 25 wins on the year, 3-19. So probably won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I would say at 25 wins, I feel like you're even
probably
with the
not.
expanded playoff, your chances are unlikely.
Yeah, probably not.
Gotcha. So speaking of the Reds, my first question, it's going to be to both of you, but obviously I'll start with Clay since you are the Reds fan. So what were your reactions to kind of the Reds offseason moves? Because obviously, not everybody that watches the channel follows every team as closely as I try to. But the Reds had a borderline playoff team last year and had a playoff team the year before, I believe. And so, you got these great pieces, you got these young pitchers that are ready to come up. And then all of a sudden you trade away Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez, and Sonny Gray. And it just kind of seemed a little out of place, a little weird. So, but that's coming from an outsider's perspective.
Yeah.
Is that something that you kind of saw coming? That was kind of the writing was on the wall, or did that surprise you as much as it surprised us?
Well, even before the year, to break it down, the Sonny Gray one, I don't like, maybe not before the season, but maybe during the season and depending on how it's go, because he wasn't going to resign. But the thing that's kind of sad is Cincinnati is a baseball town. It was the first professional baseball team. And I really thought that guys on the team would build off. They loved the city, would build off the success of the Bengals, and it would help them out, maybe get them a couple wins. But the Winker one was sad. I didn't see that one coming just because the Suarez one, like I understood because the past few years he hadn't hit well. He wasn't getting the job done for the money that he was being paid. But I felt like the trade was kind of like the Mariners were like, we want Winker. And then we were like, okay, you can have Winker, but you had to take Suarez as well. I may be wrong on that. So it was bad to see Winker go, like sad. And then but the Sonny Gray one made sense to free up money. But the one that, not the one that was terrible was because you freed up Sonny Gray, you got rid of Suarez, so you have enough money to offer Nick Castellanos. And then Castellanos comes out and he wanted to make a new contract with the Reds. He said that. And then they didn't even give him a call. So, like, that's the stuff that's just terrible is they won't put they won't put any money into it. Just see the team be successful. So, but the Sonny Gray one also makes sense because what I said before, you had Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, so you had young pitching you could call up and say like, here's your chance. But no, the Winker and Suarez one, I think for everybody was just out of the water. Even like for even Reds fans, I'm not saying just not baseball fans.
Yeah, for sure. And Thomas, obviously, outsider's perspective, what were your kind of reactions to it? Was it something that you kind of saw coming, or was it pretty much a surprise to you as well?
Well, be honest. I mean, the Reds have had a lot of solid pickups the past decade or so. It was unexpected, but in my defense, I don't know exactly what direction they're trying to go to. So the good thing about them is they are very active in making moves, which from the outsider view symbolizes that they are looking for the best interest of the team. But, and maybe it's just something I need to research further, where are we going with the moves being made?
We don't know. Don't know.
Nobody knows, apparently. No one knows.
I mean, like the 4 guys they got in the trade, well, out of one of them, like one of them's 20, the guy's 26 years old and he's still in single A. And then the other one, I mean, and he's been in like the highest he's gone up is double A. The other one got designated. Then the third one, I can't think of his name, but where he's already getting benched when a right-hander starts. He's not in the lineup. When a right-hander MLB, and then the other one's double A, and he's 28. So
didn't you guys get the number 1 prospect or the number 1 pick in the draft last year from the Twins, or was that a different trade?
That was the Sonny. So the 4 guys I said, that was in the Suarez and Winker trade. The one that you're talking about was in the Sonny Gray one. So
right,
there is potential in that, which I see the potential in it. But a lot of people. He was a high schooler, but I mean he's throwing 103. But a lot of the potential for him, what they're saying is for him to be a reliever, but still, who cares? He's supposed to be in the majors soon. So,
gotcha. Okay, yeah. And so now moving on, same question for Thomas, obviously in the perspective of the Rockies. So the Rockies, I got to be honest with you, man. I have no idea what in the world's going on over there. You seemed very positive about, the direction that they're going and how the team looks, and that's awesome. But coming from an outsider's perspective, I think I speak for most just generic, regular baseball fans where we say, I have no idea what in the world's going on in Colorado because, obviously you have Nolan Arenado on your team, and he's arguably the best third baseman in baseball for going on a decade. And you pay the St. Louis Cardinals $100 million to not have Nolan Arenado on your team, despite him being there for a decade. And then you let Trevor Story walk, who also is another homegrown guy. Now, yes, he's had some injury concerns, and he didn't have a great year last year, but you could have traded him at the trade deadline, and you did not do that. You just let him walk for nothing. And so now we're sitting here thinking, okay, well, clearly they're just cleaning house, and they're going to trade Charlie Blackmon, and they're going to trade everybody else. And then suddenly you sign Chris Bryant for virtually the same amount of money that you would have signed Arenado, maybe a little bit less. So it just kind of seems out of the blue. So what is your reaction to kind of what's been going on? Like, do you kind of have a clearer picture seeing it every day than I might?
So pretty much what I'm seeing, and we've had a history of getting rid of good guys, we're saving about $20 million a year on the Bryant contract compared to the Arenado contract. Charlie Blackmon, we're not getting rid of him. He gets paid $20 million to be an average baseball player to take October off. There is no reason why he needs to try any harder than he does to go to another team. Now, I will say we have some long-term payments that we have extended over 4 years, 3 of our starters, Antonio Sensatella, Kyle Freeland, Ramon Marquez. Those are our guys. That's our bat. I mean, so I think we realized the mistake was to give Arenado that much money. He's worth that much money, but it's not from us. It's got to be to a higher payroll team. The Story situation, I have absolutely no idea because the truth is we got Jose Iglesias. So it almost feels like we just astronomically lost a trade to the Red Sox because we have their guy now, and no offense, but he is nowhere matched as Trevor Story. So I see little parts moving. We pay good guys little money. CJ Crone so far. Both of our catchers, Dom Nunez, Elias Diaz, we pay them close to nothing. Garrett Hampson's he's our utility guy, one of the fastest guys in the league. He'll ask for some money after the season, I believe. So I think, and then Ryan McMahon got extended too. So with these extensions and with these guys, we're not paying that much money. I think we're trying to save money to finally get extra pieces if we ever get a good playoff run. That's what I'm thinking.
Gotcha. And Clay, again, as I did for Thomas, what is your kind of reaction to what the Rockies have been doing?
So, like you said, the Arenado one, it didn't make sense, but it kind of, like Thomas had a good point of he deserves that much money, but you kind of, small market teams like the Reds as well, you kind of have to bite the bullet. You can't pay everybody that you want the money that they deserve. But I feel like what Thomas said, I feel like CJ Crone was a big pickup for them. And then, I mean, I think without people forget about those, even with Arenado, like they've made the playoffs multiple times through the past 5, especially 10 years. And they've been to the World Series in the past. Like, is it still like 50? Is it how long ago was that, Thomas? Like 15?
It was 8.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have a history of making playoffs and figure things out. And then I think what Thomas said is they're just getting, like CJ Crone, they're getting guys that play baseball well, and they're just getting guys under their cracks. So I think they're doing a good job. I think even though Thomas won't say it, I believe they have a shot at the playoffs, even though being in honestly the toughest division in baseball. You could say definitely because of the payroll that they're up against with the Padres and the Dodgers every game.
Yeah, definitely either the number 1 or the number 2 because the AL East is absolutely stacked as well.
Yeah, and the same way because you got the Red Sox and the Yankees who have that higher payroll. It's hard to deal with for teams. But yeah.
We're the National League Orioles in a sense.
How?
Because we have the Dodgers and at last year was the Giants, and then the Padres are always decent.
You could say like Blue Jays or Rays to make that sound better. I mean, I like the Orioles. They just have a bunch of prospects.
I could take that. Okay. No, because the Orioles would be like the Diamondbacks. No, I can take that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you're remembering that the Diamondbacks are also over there.
It's hard to remember them sometimes. I don't understand how they are so bad, but that's a different complete story.
I mean, the Diamondbacks just don't do anything. Like they breed all these players and then they just let them walk and then that's it.
They scream in the pasture, bro.
They just say, all right, you come here and play for us for a little while until we figure it out. And then, 3 years later, like, we forgot to figure it out. I'm sorry. You just go. It's fine. Go.
Paul Goldschmidt.
I promise you could go, get out of here, you scamp.
Was it David Peralta's their cover player? When was the last time you heard his name?
Pretty much, yeah. Oh Lord, David Peralta. Okay. So I meant to ask this during talking about the Reds, but this just came. At least I just saw this today. It might have happened yesterday, but Joey Votto had some pretty interesting things to say about what he thinks about where the Reds are going this year. Clay, I don't know if you've heard anything about that. He pretty much just called the team embarrassing and how it's embarrassing that they're losing so much and how he didn't resign to stick around to stink. And I mean, to be fair, I mean, he's been there for, how old is he? What, 35, 36, something like that? I mean, he's been there his whole 35. Career. And how many times have they even won a playoff series in that 15 years?
Haven't. The 2 times we have been in a playoff series was the Giants, the first World Series that they won. We were up 2-0 against them, and they won 3 straight games. The third game, in Game 5, Posey hit a grand slam. And then the other series was when Holiday had that no-hitter in Game 1, and it was against the Phillies the year that they won the World Series.
That's right. I forgot that was against the Reds.
And then the other 2 times, when the wild card game, back-to-back years, we played at the Pirates and lost. But I think –
poor Johnny Cueto.
Yeah, Cueto. But honestly, we should have kept him. He's still pitching. That's the sad thing. But to answer, basically, like Votto's a leader in the clubhouse, so he's gonna be the guy like right now to try to the glue guy to keep everything together per se. But the other part of it is, I think he's not going to come out and say it, but he's fed up with ownership and everything that's happened. Because he took a toll with his contract, but basically what's happened is management is kind of using that as excuse, I'd say, in some instances of why we can't pay guys. Like we're playing Votto this much, and Votto is just like I just want to win. So I think that's him getting after that too, and I think it's especially when all like the Winker and Suarez trade happened, like Tucker Barnhart also, your catcher last year with the Giants, like he came out, and some other guys that came out that had some stints with the Reds, like Zach Cozart, who had an All-Star year with the Reds. They all came out and they were like, "That's the way it's been. That's the way it's always going to be with management. Like people, Votto needs to get out of it. Like he deserves better." And other guys in the league saying he deserves better. So I think part of it is he's being a glue guy in the clubhouse. Another part is I think he's like just done with it with ownership, which I mean you can't blame him. So I honestly think what will happen is this big contract will end. The Reds will still be terrible, and I think he'll sign and go to the Blue Jays because he's from Canada. He's a Canadian. So that's what I think will always happen. He'll want to play for his team, and they're good. And he'll take a leadership role and not starting every day. And I think he'll be okay with that, but I could be wrong. So
fair enough. No, I like that take. I think that makes a lot of sense. So there is one more question about the Reds that I want to ask, and it involves Tommy Pham. So again, I'm not sure what your guys' familiarity with the specifics of what Tommy Pham said a few days ago. It was early this week that I saw it, and I knew that obviously I knew this interview was going to happen, and I was like, I gotta ask the guys about this. I'm not sure I've ever really seen a guy just blatantly say that he doesn't care about if his team wins or his other teammates or anything else. He literally just wants to hit the ball well so he can make more money next year. I've never actually just seen somebody at the beginning of the season go, I don't care about anything other than a bag that I'm going to get next year, hopefully. So what are your guys' reactions to that?
I mean, well, first off, I liked it when it was in Padres. I liked watching the Padres a lot. I mean, it's an easy team. I'm saying it's a fun team to watch. It's normal to say, man, that's a fun baseball club to watch. But I think part of it that's frustrating was he signed after all of that. After everything that happened, after Winker. So it's he's going to replace Winker. And then the thing that we got to remember is he said that when we were playing at the Dodgers, and he hadn't had a hit all year.
A good point. That's a solid point.
And then he wants to say, I just signed to the Reds, like he said, it's a smaller ballpark, get my stats up.
He hasn't but he didn't. He honestly started the year terrible last year too. So
yeah, but that's the thing. If he was playing well, and it's he was playing well and playing his tail off, it would still piss me off. But I guess you could see a guy saying that I'm done with this team. I just want to get this year over with so I can go somewhere else to make more money. But then it's kind of you're saying that, and you have you're batting below 200 on the year. It's really. So,
Thomas, what about you?
Well, I mean, guys that start off the season pretty poorly, I know our shortstop or our second baseman does. If they're not getting sent down, there's a clear indication that they are going to be high potential for the season going forward, pre-trade deadline or whatever. I think that he shouldn't have blatantly said that. I think from the aspect of sports and business, it's kind of like what everybody pretty much does without saying it. You play on a not the best ball club, you get your stats up. You're supporting the team. You're helping the team. If at best things come along that you get a contract somewhere else, so be it. Think about David Price on the Rays. It's exactly what he did. So I just think it's weird that he blatantly said that, Clay was saying that he did it when he was hitting poorly. It seems like it is a very emotionally fulfilled statement.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. So moving on from obviously your guys' specific teams to just kind of generic Major League Baseball stuff that's going on. So it's kind of been talked about a little bit that home runs are down a little bit this year. Home runs are they're coming at a little bit of a premium. There's a lot of guys kind of like what Thomas mentioned that are struggling early on this year. I can think of at least 5 or 10 just off the top of my head of guys that I kind of looked at the beginning of the season. It's like, this guy might hit 40 home runs. This guy might hit, have 100 RBIs. This guy might hit 350, and, they're struggling real bad. I mean, look at Trevor Story. Yes, he's going from Coors to Fenway, but Fenway's a hitter's ballpark in and of himself. And I think the last time I looked, he was hitting like 180. So like there's just a lot of guys that are really struggling. So what do you think the reasoning is for guys that are struggling so bad? And do you think that the extended lockout had a lot to do with it? And Clay, I'll start with you.
I think the extended lockout, no, I think there's two main things. I think one of the things is talks about the baseballs are different this year. Now, I don't know if like the baseballs were I haven't looked into much like a couple years ago, but they're saying the baseballs were nerfed. They're going out farther, but this year you can tell there's some difference, and you can hear like the sound off the bat, especially when we play baseball. You're like, man, that's gone. And then it's a warning track, pop fly. So I think there's some of that. Even I say that because pitchers are saying stuff, because there's been more guys are getting hit this year. More guys are getting hit up in like the head area. And I can't remember what Mets pitcher talked about it, but he was like, it's the baseballs. We don't they're different every day. And he's like, we can't, if there was, and we've asked Major League what's up with it, and they don't say anything. The second thing I think actually is the biggest issue, not issue, just how the game is the game turned into getting a lot of home runs. So a lot of these, I'd say hitting coaches, or some of them in front offices, are analytical, and they're all launch angle of going up with the ball. And what's happened is, yesterday, baseball as a whole hit 211. Like all the Major League games, that was batting average, was 211. But before the year, there were 10 teams below 200 hitting. Like their team average is below 200. So I think that's part of it. And its pitchers are advanced enough now, and that's why you see more guys throwing up. Because you swing like this, it's hard to get up to the high pitch, and you can't hit it out. So I think that's the biggest part. It's kind of like how baseball has always been, of like, this works, like hitting this works. Now pitching gets the upper hand, and then hitting, like, you know what I'm saying? They just combat themselves. So I think that's a big part of it too.
Thomas, how about you?
I think Clay took the words right out of my mouth. I think the baseballs are very inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say that the lockdown really pertained to the player performance, but it definitely, because of the agreements they made to let, top prospects start opening day, there's a lot of things that we don't know specifically that happened with the financial trade agreements, or not trade agreements, but the financial agreements to make the season go on. Maybe the baseballs just simply aren't as good as quality as they've been the past couple of years. That what's led to us having the season, a season happen. I think there's just a lot of mystery that I don't know if the avid fan could ever research and get the full answers from. But there's definitely something out there that we are missing for the major leagues that is going on in regards to the baseballs, the way the balls hit, the way guys are getting hit, so on and so forth.
Yeah. I think a good part though to that is hopefully the game might change, more small ball and more like first and third, and more like plays, more like hit and run, slashes maybe might be involved.
As it should. I agree.
You never know.
Gotcha. And this is a question that I just kind of thought of off the top of my head as you guys were saying that. So, one of the things that, is in the new CBA this year is the universal DH. I am obviously, people on my channel know I'm a Red Sox fan. So that's obviously, American League. So we've had a DH. I've seen, a DH my whole life. David Ortiz, he was a DH. That's what he was. And so, I love the DH. I love the idea of it. I love the concept of it. I love everything about it. And I think it makes the game more exciting. But obviously you guys are, you've been lifelong fans of National League teams where you've grown up your whole life. Most of the games that you guys have watched, I assume, involve pitchers hitting. So for you guys, I'm interested to see if you have a different take on the universal DH than I do, because I think it's great. whereas a lot of other people think that it's, it takes something away from the purity of the game, which I completely understand that argument. So I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys think about the universal DH, and obviously you're seeing it in action for the first time for your guys' team. So what are your guys' reactions to that?
Well, mine is originally like I always was against it, just because it's like we used to like AL is traditional this way, NL is traditional this way. There's more strategy involved in it. When to pull pitchers, when to let guys hit or match up. Like there's more strategy, I think, and it's more on the man. Like it's the manager has, I think, a kind of bigger piece, like has more control over the game and more like that more control over the game, that the reason the outcome happens. But they did it during that COVID season. And I actually liked it. And the one thing that I thought about is you got to remember, like, especially the starting pitchers in NL, some of them, some of them are athletes, and some of them probably hit 400 in, high school and all state. And then some of them hit in college. Right. But like most of these guys maybe got DH for in high school. They go to college and they never pick up a bat in their 3 years to wherever they are. And then they go to the minors and they hit and they really, they're just out there to pitch. So you got guys that haven't taken hitting seriously for 3 years in college, and you're telling them you got to hit now. So I actually like the DH because of that, because I think it just lets pitchers pitch and guys that hit. That's an extra guy in the lineup, and that's the way a guy can make money, That's how a guy can provide for his family. So what do you got, Thomas?
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about it is we can't see Zach Greinke hit any more nukes. But
or Bumgarner.
Or yeah, I was gonna say him too. But I think of it from the standpoint specifically of the Rockies. We are at a high elevation ballpark. We have half our 82 games there, 81 games. And it's not just that having an extra hitter to that aspect. Our field plays super wonky and super inconsistent in the outfield. The team has an advantage playing at home so much that we can read wind patterns better than other teams. Chris Bryant struggled with it at first. He dropped a routine fly ball once. And you could tell, even in today's game, you could tell, okay, that's a ball hit right to me. Oh, that's a ball hit right to me. Oh, actually, it's 20 feet in front of me, or so on and so forth. So it's been nothing but an advantage for the Rockies. Regardless of me being a fan of them or not, I enjoy it because I think, just like what Clay said, college pitchers learning how to re-hit, going up there against way better pitching that they've ever seen, is a complete disadvantage. I think long term you can learn how to hit the long ball or a ball as a pitcher, but what's the point? You're taking away at bats from a prospect or a bench player that can prove themselves. So I at first didn't like it because it was different, but now that it's in full fruition, I'm okay with it. No question.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, guys. And again, like I said, it is interesting to me because I've heard a lot of arguments about, taking away, a purity thing for the game, and just something that is different about the game and something that's awesome. Think about that kid from San Diego last year. I think he was actually from San Diego. Like, he grew up in San Diego, and, he was pitching at home. It was his debut, and he hit a grand slam off of Max Scherzer in San Diego. Or Brandon Woodruff hitting a bomb in the postseason against Clayton Kershaw, lefty on lefty. There are things about pitchers hitting that, I'm going to miss very much. But I do think, you guys said, long term, it's just going to make for, a more exciting baseball. Although, Clay, I loved what you said about the strategy kind of deal with, having to, reconfigure a lineup going from AL to NL. And then, there's different strategies, having to play small ball. When you take a guy out, you might take him out an inning or two later if he was in the American League because he's pitching so well. But, if it's only 1-0 and you got 2 guys on in the 7th inning, do you take him out? So, I definitely love that. And that makes a lot of sense. I absolutely loved that. But right now I want to talk about University of Kentucky. For those, obviously, you guys might not know, Clay, big University of Kentucky fan. But I want to kind of talk about something that, it's not really a conventional thing to talk about. And I want to talk about Coach Cal. And the reason why I want to talk about Coach Cal is because, I've seen a lot of him over the last decade, probably more than a non-Kentucky fan would like to see of any college coach just at random. I see him at every NBA draft. He's there supporting his players, which I think that's great. Certainly nothing wrong with that. It always seems like there's something going on, with Kentucky in terms of the team or anything like that. Obviously, they bring in great recruiting classes every year. But here's what I want to ask you, and I'll ask Thomas, obviously as well. But obviously, he'll have kind of a similar perspective as me, at least I presume. So I don't think it's really that much of an argument to say, he's one of the most successful college coaches in the last decade. Now, you can argue whether he's actually a good college coach, a bad college coach, whatever, but I don't think it's much of an argument to say he's been very successful. He's made a lot of money, and he's become one of the most famous or infamous, depending on your point of view, college coaches in the last decade, 15, 20 years, whatever it has been now. So, Clay, from somebody who loves Kentucky and watches them very closely. I don't know if you watch every game, but you certainly watch more of it than I do. So you watch every game, exactly.
Well, besides when I'm now, when we were playing and coaching, like if I'm playing baseball,
right? Yeah, yeah. If you got some, you pretty much watch every game. You watch every game. Gotcha. So my question to you is, with all of the talent that he's brought in, with everything that he has done for the sport, he's only won one national championship for Kentucky all those seasons. So my question to you is Coach Cal becoming expendable as time goes on and more years pass without a national championship? Or do you think that he's just one of those coaches that's mark on the game is more off the court than it is on the court, and he'll always kind of be that guy at Kentucky until he decides to retire?
Well, first off, is like, because I grew up in Kentucky. I grew around it. Mm-hmm. And part of that job, it's a very stressful job. Part of that job is off the court. You got to do stuff off the court within the community, which he does a great job of. And Joby Hall used to coach at UK. He passed away this year, rest in peace. But he told Cal, you were meant to coach basketball here. That was that was your calling. So there's always the off the field, off the court stuff that he does a good job of. The one thing I'll say as a whole, Kentucky fans are upset about is we want to win titles. That's Kentucky basketball. We won a title in almost every decade since Rupp was here, the 40s, and made a Final Four. But it's about we haven't made a Final Four since 2015. And I think on top of that is it was the year we were undefeated and lost to Wisconsin. So the kind of phrase of a monkey on their back, Cal still has that to the fan base until he makes Final Four again. But the thing is, out of it, since he's been here, we've had the most. Since 2015, we've been to 2 or 3 Elite Eight games, and we just lost every one of them. The Luke May last shot, lost to Auburn in OT. But I think the past 2 years have been very different, though, for Cal because of how it's gone. So I think if you asked me that question 2 years ago, my answer is going to be a lot different. Because, I love Cal. I love him. You know that. But now this year and honestly, it'll make or break what you've talked about because of what you talked about we have so much talent and we got upset this year in the first round. I didn't watch that game. We had a game that night. Thank goodness. And then the second one was last year we didn't make the tournament. So I think this year is make or break, but there's also some other stuff of that's different because basically I think in college basketball, this answer your question. I don't think he's been the best coach of the last decade. I think overall it's Jay Wright at Villanova, who just retired. Now 2010 to 2015, it's Cal. There's no debate. Whether you hate Kentucky, whether you hate Cal, there's no debate. But 2015 and now, it sucks. But literally not yesterday, 2 days ago, we've lost one of our assistants to Duke, which is kind of like unheard of around here. Like, yeah, like I know it's Kentucky and it's Duke, right? Two powerhouses, but it's unheard of. So I think to answer your question will be what happens this year, because I think majority of UK fans are over it. And yeah, we want to win a title, but I think if we go back to the Final Four, UK fans will be satisfied with it. But if we don't get back to the Final Four, it might get ugly for them.
Gotcha. So, Thomas, how about you from an outsider's perspective? Obviously, you are more of a Vol fan, so you and Kentucky are not necessarily on a liking sort of relationship. So my guess is you probably don't love Coach Cal as much as Clay does. So, what is your opinion? Do you think Coach Cal is becoming expendable at Kentucky?
It's definitely going that way. I definitely think the Rents do. I don't believe he doesn't have the potential or them as a team to go to the Final Four. I think if they do, it kind of brings them back to the perspective, as Clay was saying, that 2010, 2015, the 2015 era. I will say definitely losing to the Peacocks put everything in perspective too. In my defense, they went on to keep winning as well. I mean, that from a college basketball standpoint was unheard of. I think they'll continue to get good players. I think he's a good coach, no question. I feel like right now they just are an SEC school that, just competes a little with everybody else. And I don't know. I mean, like Clay was saying, his interpretation was different 2 years ago, and hopefully it'll be different 2 years from now as well. I mean, I'd love to see them. What's that?
Oh, no, you're good. You finish. I'll add one more point.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, they, no question, have the potential to be a consistent, if not Final Four team, Elite Eight team. So.
And I think the bigger difference, too, is college basketball fans that watch it regularly would know this. But, like, back when he started SEC basketball, like, Kentucky has the most SEC titles and won the tournament more than every other team combined. Like, it used to be, like, Colin Cowherd joked back then and called it the Kentucky Invitational. But back then, the SEC and basketball as a whole wasn't as good. You might have one or two other good teams with Kentucky, like Billy Donovan when he joined, like, at Florida, right? And now it's a lot more competitive. And I think that's part of, that might be part of it too. It's more competitive. So there's that aspect of it too. Think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, moving on to University of Tennessee. Obviously, I just mentioned that Thomas is a University of Tennessee fan, but I think both of you guys would probably have some pretty good insight on it. Obviously, because Clay does actually coach in Tennessee, which is kind of where I want to go with this question. So obviously, colleges in Tennessee, and you got to understand, I'm not from Tennessee. I'm from Florida. So, growing up in Florida, playing high school baseball in Florida, you look around and you say, okay, Florida is arguably the best state in the country for high school and college baseball. I mean, it's Florida, California, Texas, Georgia, Ohio. Like that's where you're looking. Tennessee was not necessarily on the radar, but now you look up, UT's has a great team every single year. Vanderbilt has won multiple national championships over the last decade. Even, looking not at D1, but teams like Tennessee Wesleyan are just powerhouses in their own, in their own conferences and everything like that. So what do you guys think is kind of the root cause, or is one of the causes of this just surge in great college baseball in specifically the state of Tennessee over the last decade or so? And Thomas, I'll start with you.
Well, usually the way they strategize how they give out scholarships, specifically the University of Tennessee, is, I mean, it's the University of Tennessee. Sure, Vanderbilt has a good baseball program, whatever. They're more of a medical school. They are more of an academic heavy school. When you think of athletes that want to go somewhere and win, Vanderbilt is not always that answer. So what Tennessee does, and this is from Nate Headley speaking, who owns RBI baseball, hitting guru, whatever, in Tennessee. Phenomenal guy. No question, one of the smartest baseball coaches I've ever talked to. Is they will let guys, they'll give the in-state guys less money, and it costs them less to go to college, go play at the University of Tennessee, for example, baseball. Now they have a lot more scholarship money to give out, and they'll go get guys in these random states that are absolute monsters. So it's not just you get a chance to go play at the University of Tennessee. You're now going to the University of Tennessee to play with guys that are getting paid a lot, that produce very well. Now, let's be honest, I never thought Tennessee baseball would be as good as they have this season, but it's been always something they've been striving for and building towards. And I've seen some of the players from 2-3 years ago that are still on the team, and now they're coming together, local guys that are absolute animals. And I think their plan is just now working.
Gotcha. And Clay, how about you? Obviously, you're a coach.
Yeah, so I coach at Clinton High School, just north of Knoxville, and also teach there. But what I think also is what people don't realize is just around Tennessee and then East Tennessee, there's good talent. There is good talent in high school baseball, and especially JUCO, like junior colleges. Walter State's top 5 every year. I mean, there's good baseball talent. But I think there's that part, but I think the bigger part to it is you got Tim Corbin and Tony Vitello, who are two, at the end of the day, great coaches. Vitello's always going to have his guys back, gets along with them. And Tim Corbin, Vanderbilt, like you talked about, Lopes, has a history of being good. But, I mean, I think what Thomas made a good point of it is, like, when they get bigger guys out of states, like, if you're watching college, if you want to play college baseball, you're a senior in high school, and you watch Tennessee, like, why wouldn't you want to go there? I mean, it'd be in the top of your list. Just the way they play, the fans will come out. And, I mean, that's what I think is now they'll get bigger guys. It's like, why wouldn't – I mean, that's a place you want to go now. And I also think the other part as a whole of Tennessee is, like, me going up around UK and then living down here is there's not professional sports side minor league baseball. So the NIL deals, especially for football. Tennessee got can't pronounce his last name, but that quarterback from California on a $6 million deal with NIL. Because you have like down here, then like for football and stuff, and then fans are getting more passionate in baseball. And then like when I'm from Kentucky, it's basketball, and also football's trending because Stoops. But you have people who have money who are willing to give it to the university, like they always have. And I think that'll help it out as well. But I think overall, my answer would be you got to think about the top two, like the coaching staffs, Corbin and Vitello. They make both their environments are completely different. Like Vitello's that like loves being the bad guy. He loves it. Like we're the bad guys. We're the bad like. Nobody likes playing us, like, so what? I love it. And then Corbin's like the life coach, more like now the part that people don't see is he still has fun with the guys and is relatable with the guys. So I think they built what Thomas said, connected to it. They built their staffs up and they built a culture there, and it's here to stay. And the only way it's going to change if Vitello takes a job at Arkansas, because that's where he was assistant from.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's definitely awesome insight. I'm obviously not around. I don't know much about Tennessee baseball just as a whole state in general, so I appreciate the insight on that. So, but with that, I want to transition to the NFL draft. It just concluded on Saturday night, and I don't know if you guys saw the video that I dropped earlier today. I had a hard time getting through that because I just. I didn't want to max out my microphone, but I think I did a few times. Like I just was furious with how the Patriots drafted. But I don't want to talk about that right now, unless you guys have specific things you want to talk about with that. But I do want to talk about your guys' teams. I'll start with Clay. Obviously, you are a Bengals fan. So first of all, I have to say this before I get into my question. Congratulations, man, on a Super Bowl run. I mean, you guys were real close to winning the thing. Unbelievable. And I do have to, I've actually talked about you a couple times on this channel as it pertains to, my hesitation on the Bengals wanting to select Jamar Chase. Clearly,
told
that
you.
was right. That clearly
Wouldn't
that was
happen.
incorrect.
I told you. But yeah.
Yeah, clearly that was an incorrect statement. Now, that says a lot more about just how unbelievable Jamar Chase is versus Penei Sewell. He's obviously very good. He had a great year for Detroit as well. But I just figured you guys needed more offensive linemen. And I mean, I cannot think of another team that had as horrendous of an offensive line and made it as far as you guys did this year. So it was an anomaly, but it was still true. So I was incorrect. So I'm saying it to you now. I apologize and congratulations for the success. We'll see if you can do it this year. We'll see if it can happen again this year. But I think you guys have a great shot considering you guys spent a lot of money on your offensive line. But nonetheless, as it pertains to the draft, I don't know a lot about the players beyond Dax Hill that you guys selected. Talk about your reaction to the Cincinnati Bengals draft. How did you think that they did? Just first reaction. Obviously, we won't know how they actually did until everybody gets on the field, but just first gut reaction.
Well, like we said about Dax Hill, so like about that, my first reaction is Jesse Bates is on the franchise tag this year. So with us getting him and later in the draft, we got a short safety, another cornerback, and the short safety could switch back to cornerback as well. They think in the NFL he could play both. And then we got some linemen. But I think overall that just says that this is Bates last year. We won't pay for him. Overall, because the position we're at, because this, how I was before it was, I was hoping this season we'd going into the last season, this season we'd win a playoff game. That was kind of the goal. Then we went on that run last year. So now it's kind of like what you said. We got to go. Now the expectation is we're going back to the playoffs, and now we're winning the whole thing. So I think with paying the offensive line, the only thing we needed was of course, you never have enough more offensive linemen, especially with Burrow, and then getting that cornerback and safety position locked down. So I'm overall I'm happy about it, but it's kind of sad just because they're not going to pay Jesse Bates, but it's also relatable because what's going to happen in a couple of years is you're going to have T. Higgins, who's an Oak Ridge product from Tennessee. You're going to have him, then Jamar Chase, right? Burrow, all are going to want money. Yeah. And then and then you'll pay Burrow money. Burrow's probably going to want Chase to leave. So that's going to happen. So it's kind of I guess that's good because we want to keep that offense together,
For sure, yeah.
Overall, I'm happy with it, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't blame you. And, Cam Taylor-Britt, I'm just kind of looking at him, forgive me, I'm not super familiar with Nebraska football, but because, not a lot of people are, I presume, but, he also has experience. He's almost exactly the same experience as Dax Hill. Dax Hill, he's played both safety spots. He's played in the box. He's played out in the slot. And so he was a guy that's really a Swiss Army knife. And, Cam Taylor-Britt also has played both safety positions.
Both of them,
slot corner. He's played even out on the boundary. So he's a guy that can absolutely do anything you ask him to do in the second round. I think that's a great pick for you guys. Yeah, and definitely, I think if you did watch enough of the video, obviously it was a very long rant, so I understand not wanting to watch me yell for an hour, but I predicted that the Patriots would trade back to 28 or 29, and they would select Dax Hill because he's just a Patriots type player. He's a guy who does everything out in the secondary, and that's exactly the type of player that Bill Belichick always looks for. And instead, of course, we went with a third round guard in the first round, just perfect. And you guys ended up getting him, and I thought that was an absolutely perfect fit for what you guys needed. So I certainly think that he's going to be a great player, and he's a great competitor, and we'll see how it goes.
No, but that's what it kind of came down to. That late first round pick was what you're saying is how I kind of looked into it beforehand. Was do we take a lineman here to help Burrow, or not just Dax Hill, but kind of that position spot wise? If we're taking that position here in the first round, that's just showing us that Bates is gone after this year. So absolutely. But like I said, so I hope he can develop and what you talked about. And in 2 years from now, we'll be that was good. But I mean, that's the thing, though. You got to think about people making draft picks and stuff. Was like, if you know you're not going to pay Bates, that type of pick's a win-win.
Yeah.
Like, you got to get that position, and that's the best guy available.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so like if it doesn't work out, then who do you want to pick? Kind of like Burrow at quarterback. Like you had to get a quarterback. He was a homegrown guy. He had one of the most remarkable college seasons ever off the Heisman at LSU. And it's kind of like, if he works out, he works out. If he doesn't, then who else did you want us to pick?
Yeah, and crazy thing about Joe Burrow is I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he wasn't even projected to be drafted before the season started, and he played so well, he ended up being the number one pick in the draft. So,
yeah, I think he was. It was undrafted, and then some people had him as a third day guy.
Yeah, like a 6
1 or 2. Yeah.
Obviously, those mock drafts, it depends on who which guy you're following. But moving on to the Washington Commanders now. Obviously, they had a bit more active of a draft, I'd say. I think they had a few more picks. I do want to talk to you, Thomas, about kind of, obviously same question for Clay, or same question that I had for Clay, I should say. What's your reaction to the Washington football team's draft? And more specifically, I do want to ask you, Fedarian Mathis, great player, defensive tackle out of Alabama. He's another one of those, just gritty, tough defensive tackles. But you already have like 11 gritty, tough defensive tackles on your team. So does this spell the end for the Daron Payne era in Washington?
No question. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to trade him for an offensive line. I think that we have extra wide receivers. So we got first round, Jahan Dotson. We're going to get offensive linemen for the other guys like Jared Patterson, at maybe Adam Humphries from the Titans that we brought on. Maybe we see Curtis Samuel go somewhere. We haven't seen anything out of Curtis Samuel, unfortunately, which is kind of at our leverage. So out of the whole draft, that's what we missed completely, was an offensive line. And that's been the struggle the entire, obviously last year Chase Young got injured and then the defense kind of took a toll as it was. But no signs of hope for the offensive line, which I was very confused about. Super heavy offense now. But as you know, and any simpleton of football would know, no offensive line, there is no offense. So
unless you're the Bengals.
This is true.
But that's the argument that I made to Clay, and look where it got me. So
yeah, they're definitely going to push out Daron Payne because I hate to say it, he can't compete with Fedarian Mathis, John Allen, or Chase Young, Montez Sweat. It's just he's not in the fit anymore.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think everybody knows it.
I almost like Daron Payne better than Jonathan Allen. And
really?
I might even like him a little bit better than Montez Sweat. So it is a little surprising that out of the 4 guys, obviously Chase Young is Chase Young. You're not going to get rid of him. But out of the other 3, I honestly would probably rather take Daron Payne just off of name alone, really. Just because it's an awesome freaking name. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, I do think that he's a little bit more polished, but
Well, Montez Sweat took a little bit of an MIA this season with the broken jaw. He hurt his leg at some point, completely missed half the season. So that gives us a chance to reboot him back. Losing Chase Young, we're going to reboot him back. Jonathan Allen, though, I think he had a really good season for us because he stepped up when guys were not there. And that's what we needed. So if we can have him with that mentality with a full defensive line, I think extremely good things are to happen. We could be one of the best defenses in the NFL. Who else we got? Brian Robinson Jr. running back, which was good. So overall the picks they had were good. The one part I was confused about is them trading back. I don't understand why they traded back. I think that the players that were getting selected through, what Washington would have got was just not in their fit. So I'm happy with it, and I would tell you if I wasn't. But we have tools. Going in depth of like Carson Wentz, that's debatable. But at the same time, this draft was completely not a quarterback-heavy draft.
No.
I mean, I could have said, yeah, we want Matt Corral or we want Malik Willis, but what's that going to do for us when they, they have as good of a chance as Taylor Heineke in their first season? I don't know. I don't. I mean, obviously Taylor Heineke's a premier second string quarterback, but I think we're going to give Carson Wentz his chance, his redemption. He's seen it through. He's been to a Super Bowl and won it. Is what it is.
Yeah, and I do want to make clear, Carson Wentz has been to a Super Bowl, but he did not play in it. He was benched at that point. But
in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's true. He didn't play in the playoffs. And Nick Foles, the guy who did win that Super Bowl, just got released yesterday or the day before. Just I don't know if you guys saw that, but yeah, I don't know what it is about Nick Foles, but he cannot play for any football team unless they are the Philadelphia Eagles. So he's gone to like 5 or 6 different teams have been absolutely atrocious for all of them. Then he goes back to the Eagles and he's amazing again for like half a season, and then he leaves and he's terrible again. So, I don't know what it is because he played for 2 different coaches too, so it wasn't even the coach. Like, it was really strange. I don't know how that worked, but nonetheless, yeah. And I definitely was. I'll tell you this from my perspective. I think that teams that are rebuilding should trade back in the draft more often, because I would rather have more draft capital, over multiple years than, just kind of try and go all in on one amazing player. Like if Aiden Hutchinson didn't fall to the Lions at 2, I would have traded back if I was the Lions, because yeah, you could take Trayvon Walker, but he's a project guy and he's not a sure thing. And I think that people forget that he was like a 4th round pick to start the season. And then he played really well at Georgia. He did. He played unbelievably. He had a great season. He had a phenomenal combine. And all of a sudden he's the number 1 pick in the draft. And people forget that he has weaknesses too. Like, he's not good in the run game. He tends to really rely on his long arms. And when he doesn't have reach, when he doesn't have that advantage, he tends to lose often. So it just, if they could have taken him for sure if Aiden Hutchinson would have been taken at 1, but I would have just traded back. I would have just traded back with, the Chargers or the Ravens or somebody else that, is 1, maybe 2 pieces away and doesn't necessarily need those draft picks. I mean, look at who won the Super Bowl this year. I don't think the Rams have had a 1st round pick since 2016 or 2017, because they have gone all in to win and they don't care about the 1st round or the 2nd round picks because they don't feel like they need it. So, trade with a team that is ready to go all in, get that extra 1, 2, 3 1st round picks, 2nd round picks, whatever, for your next years. So that, let's say you have a year like the Bengals did, which Clay was alluding to earlier. Like, yeah, this year you were hoping that maybe you'd win a playoff game, but I think a more realistic expectation for me at the beginning of the year for the Bengals was their offensive line was bad. You had a great offense, just skill position wise, and your defense was average. So you were probably going to win. You were probably going to win 6 or 7 games. That was my anticipation, because you guys are probably going to win 6, maybe 7 games. But now, if the Bengals had traded back in those drafts, maybe, and gotten extra draft capital, and they still had this amazing season, now you are a Super Bowl contender and a team with just a crazy amount of draft capital. You can do whatever you want. You can trade for good players to get that piece. You can trade up in the draft and get another. You can do whatever you want. So I think teams that are rebuilding should trade back more often. So I was actually kind of happy to see the Commanders trade back. But go ahead, Clay.
Yeah, no, just to kind of like carry off what you said was I agree with you, but I think what it comes down to is kind of like talk about the Reds, just owners putting in the money, because the Rams are going to do that like they did, and they're willing. That's the thing about the Rams, like they're willing to all right, we're getting Von Miller and Odell, like we're going for it this year. Like there's still that edge to it of we have to make these moves. And I think onto it like the Bengals, it's like we have this good year, and I mean, the Bengals have historically, we haven't put a lot of money in the franchise, and we did get an offensive lineman this year in the offseason. Because it's that's our weakness.
You got 3, I think.
Yeah, and we paid them all. That's the thing, is we were like, we're paying you. So it was good to see that. But I think that what it goes back to, though, is there's also the side of it of the owners got to be willing to put the money in, and then still with the Rams, it's like You don't have to necessarily pull off the trades, but you technically have to pull the trigger like they did with Von Miller and Odell. And you kind of like got to go, well, this is our year to win it all out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, so for me, honestly, Thomas, I thought it was a good thing that they traded back. Now, I think you guys had the 11th pick in the draft, if I remember correctly. So you could have taken Jameson Williams at 11, and that would have, you could definitely argue that that's a better wide receiver prospect than Jahan Dotson. But quite frankly, to me, unless, we fast forward a year, 2 years, and Jahan Dotson's a complete bust, and Jameson Williams is everything we thought that he would be, I think that getting that extra draft capital and getting Jahan Dotson instead is going to really work out for you guys because, you're going to have extra draft capital later on. And I think it's weird that people say that the Commanders need wide receivers more than anything because you already have Curtis Samuel, you already have Terry McLaurin, and you brought in Adam Humphries, as you said, and now you have Jahan Dotson on top of those. Like, yeah, it's great, but I feel like that's not your number one need. Your number one need was secondary. I can't even name anybody in your secondary right now. And, maybe that's just my gap in knowledge. I can't name one. I think Landon Collins is still there, maybe. I don't know if he's a free agent now or if he got released. I don't know what happened. But he's the only one, and I think he got released.
Cam Curl.
Cam Curl, right, exactly. Yeah.
And it's funny, too, because he was like a 3rd or 4th round pick. He's one of the best secondaries, if not the, that they have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think like the only thing that would, I guess, not make sense, but I know it would have like pissed like some Commanders fans off, and I think you, Thomas, would have felt like about it. Would be like with that 11th pick of like what you talk about the draft class, like getting Kenny Pickett or something. Like it's kind of like and that's the thing is you get the other pieces, and then if that doesn't work out, you can't get anybody. Then next year's draft, hopefully the quarterbacks are better, and then you get them then.
And I think from an offensive standpoint, is as much as we want to see Carson Wentz throw the ball down the field, our run game is going to be the biggest piece with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. As it was last year with Heineke, Antonio Gibson is going to have to put the offense on his back. No question.
Yeah.
Him, and then the occasional phenomenal Terry McLaurin catches he makes, that's what's going to carry the offense.
And it goes back, I think, too, to the division you're in. You know what I'm saying? Like the Cowboys are going to be the Cowboys. They'll probably win the division. They'll make the playoffs and lose in the first round, but you all could still get a playoff spot.
The Eagles are making moves, bro.
The Eagles are making moves.
The Eagles are making moves, man. They had a really good draft and a really good offseason. They signed Hassan Reddick. They traded for A.J. Brown. Like, they're making moves. And they made the playoffs last year, too. They were only 1 or 2 games behind the Cowboys. And the Cowboys got worse.
And a seasoned Jalen Hurts.
I don't believe in Jalen Hurts.
You don't believe in Jalen Hurts?
I put him and Tua in the exact same category. Former Alabama quarterbacks that got to the NFL and forgot how to throw a football.
Here's the thing, though, Thomas, about the Commanders. What PFT commenter said. You keep on drafting Bama players, you're eventually going to be Bama.
Oh, no.
No, don't want that. No,
I do eventually be Ohio State.
What?
We'd eventually be Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's the thing is y'all will be Ohio State. So
yeah, and speaking of Commanders and Ohio State, I do want to talk to you about this, Thomas. Obviously, Dwayne Haskins really sadly passed away just a few weeks ago. Got hit by I think it was a dump truck at this point. So obviously, some reports came out that they said he was just going to get some gas. His car ran out of gas or whatever the case was, had to stop on the side of the road and ended up getting hit by a dump truck. So I'm not going to ask you what your reaction to that is because, if your reaction is anything other than just that really is just horrible and tragic, then I don't know what kind of soul you have.
Right.
But, for on the football side of it, even though it is a little weird to talk about the football side of it, do you think that do you kind of wish that he'd have stuck around, especially given where your quarterback situation is now? Because obviously he was a first round pick for you guys, and he had 1.5, I think, really not great seasons, and then he was just released. So
right.
do you kind of wish that he'd have stuck around, or were you, separating from his death?
Well, let me first say, I mean, it's extremely sad what happened. I think he had a lot of potential still left in the league, but with what I just said, I believe he would have done better somewhere else. I think when he was with Washington, he got complacent. He was the best quarterback they had at the time, and he didn't produce the full fulfillment as what they needed. And I wish Washington had a more veteran seasoned quarterback to mold him into a better quarterback in years to come. I just think he felt like he was at the ceiling, and his mentality was, well, there's no one else here really better than me. I've proved it. Now I'm going to stop proving it. And I think that is what led to mediocre productivity. And I mean, he would have been so much better somewhere else. Maybe under a better coaching staff, better management, better other quarterbacks. But I don't think Washington really was his full potential fit at the end of the day.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, all right, I want to move on to what I think might be the my favorite part of today's episode. And obviously, if you guys have seen my previous episodes or previous interviews with Brucey and with Andy, we talk about Johnson a little bit on here because obviously we all played together at Johnson, and it's just really nice to just kind of be able to take this time and talk about memories and just awesome and fun things that happened there. So the first question that I want to ask you guys about Johnson University is, you guys were obviously, Thomas, you chose to not come back for a fifth year, but Clay, you did. And so, you were obviously the first group that has happened to. And you're going to be one of the few groups that has happened to in the history of college baseball. I mean, you're talking about, it might be 4, maybe 5 classes of guys that's ever going to happen to, and, barring other catastrophes later on down the road. But, so when that whole thing is going on and you're kind of deciding to come back or not come back, like, what is your process of thinking, like, am I going to come back? How strange is it? Because you kind of, I assume, you sit there and go, it's been 4 years. Now I got to go off and do something else. And then all of a sudden another year is thrown in your lap. Like, how did that kind of decision-making process start for you?
So, I mean, how it started is like, well, like all of us at Johnson played our freshman year. So like at other colleges, like we don't have a redshirt year we can go back on, or we can't file like a redshirt year because we all play, which like nothing wrong with that, but the part of it was when it all happened. Like I remember, like we got that message, like season's over, and I like went up to the field and honestly, like, had that moment, like bawled my eyes out, thought I was done. So I had that moment, all like with myself, and then I mean, the opportunity came back, and I started to feeling, like I graduated per se with the sports and fitness degree, and it was kind of like move on to the next chapter of my life. Well, what job do I want? And like I was praying about it to God, and I felt called to do teaching. So I was, even before COVID, talking about maybe doing something online, being able to stay here with my fiance, or going back home and doing it at University of Kentucky, UK. So then with the extra year, and Fair at the time, like wanted all of us, like Thomas, that class to come. He gave us all the opportunities. So first, like grateful for the opportunity of like him and Bruce. They were like, y'all can come back and play next year. So there was that piece of it. I'm grateful for it. And so that happened. But I think the first process was what I just said of like, what I want to do in life, because yes, we all love baseball here, but when we graduate college, like we're not going to be playing professionally. We got to, provide for like our fiance or like our family or for ourselves. So I think thinking about that, doing teaching. And then I remember over the summer, the beginning of that, I went to the teaching school, and I don't know how or why they let me in because my GPA requirement didn't meet the requirements at the time. But they gave me the chance and said, you got 1 semester to get it up. So I felt called to do it and did it. And I got it up in the fall. I got my GPA up, and I was able to teach and then play baseball with it on my own. So I think that's happening. But also my main part of it for the athletic point of it, what you asked was, I told Bruce this and Fair this, them being like I'm grateful for them being like welcoming, like we want you to come back type of thing, like to all of us, to let us have that chance of a senior year. So I think that was a big part of it, of like me going back into like I'm not stepping on anybody's toes per se, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And Thomas, obviously on the flip side for you, you chose not to come back. So what was the decision-making process for you? Because obviously Clay made the decision to go back to school and to continue playing baseball. And your decision was, yeah, it sounds great to come back maybe, but I think I'd rather move on. So what was the decision-making process for you in that time?
Yeah, I think I was just done with school. I just need my undergraduate. So I took a couple online classes during the summer and the fall to walk in December to finish my undergrad. There wasn't really much of a academically logistic need for me to come back and play baseball, let alone go to school. That's the first thing, obviously. I mean, I could have done it now thinking about it because I never started working in person until this year. So it would have been fun to do so. I just didn't have any more school to do. So I would have, when I'm very fortunate to be able to come back. In a way, I feel like I can always go back if I ever want to get a graduate degree or something. But at that moment in time, and as far as I know right now, that of there was no point to continue being at Johnson,
Gotcha.
logistically speaking.
Yeah, for sure. And just kind of piggybacking off of that, that time in your life. So obviously for me at that time, you guys know this, at least I think you guys know this, is, I was throwing that whole year on a torn labrum. And so when that year ended, there was a part of me that was like, because I was toast. Like that last game, like I don't know if you guys remember this, but that last game, I was like screaming in the dugout.
The Union College game.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was in so much pain, and I told my doctor about like what my back was doing and everything, and he was like, yeah, you're overcompensating, and if you keep doing that, like you're gonna screw up your back even worse than you're gonna screw up your shoulder. So you gotta cut it out. You gotta relax. And so like for me, it was kind of a relief type thing almost, even though obviously it was very, very sad, and I didn't want to stop playing. But looking back on it now, where I am today, I can pick up my kids later in life because that season got canceled. But for you guys, that must have just, I can't imagine the heartbreak. I mean, you guys have spent your whole careers and you're ready for your senior year. It's your last time going out there, and all of a sudden on like a random Tuesday or whatever, like you're told you're done. You're not getting a senior night. You're not walking at graduation. You're not getting anything. It's just over, and you get to go home, and that's it. And you just get to walk off into the night. Like I can't imagine that heartbreak for you guys. So kind of talk to me about that kind of moment for you guys.
Yeah. I mean, even though like I came back, there's still, I'll say this, like there's still a part of me, like to the point of I'm still not over it. Like I haven't accepted it, just because of like what you talk about, like Thomas, me and you, and like Mally, like we were at school together 4 years, and then we got all the guys that came from Awasi, and we glued together. And that part of the year, we're starting to figure like stuff out, and we're like, man, we gotta have a good year. Like we're gonna have a shot at this thing, like winning the conference and making a run. And like still that part, and we went through the tough part of our schedule and going into spring break right before it happened. We had the easier part and then going to conference games.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really do to this day. I always say like we would have had a better year than we did even last year. And I think no, it was just still like there's still times I think always like I won't, like I'm just not over it. Like it's still, I don't dwell in it, you know what I'm saying? But it's still to a point of like, man, like I wish we could have had that year. But I know like even though Thomas says it, everybody else in the country is saying it, and even to this point of like high school kids are probably saying it. And I mean that's the other part though, is we got to think to a point. What I thought about it is like we were blessed enough to play college. I mean, there were kids in high school, and then Thomas knows this coach in Virginia, they didn't even play last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then like the Ivy League didn't play last year. So there's also that point. But I guess all you can do from in the end is still remember that experience and learn from it and not forget it. To not like yesterday, like going out to the ballpark, like just being on the field and being able to coach, like not take it for granted type of thing.
Yeah. Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely was sad. My initial feelings when the season ended, I was kind of mentally in a place where I wanted to work and move and do my own thing. And, as COVID happened and now I coach too, I'm like, man, we had the whole world in our hands. And I mean, we were ball players and we enjoyed ourselves and we had a good camaraderie. And I mean, for it to all kind of, dismantle, it just sucked. I mean, it sucked that in that way. And it also sucked just going through COVID as it was with nothing going on. And you just are kind of stuck there with your reflection of what it was, it was it was very painful to do that. And then the only thing we do now is, like just like what Clay said, just be thankful for the opportunity and use what we had as an opportunity to give other kids a chance. When, Lord willingly, knock on wood, we don't go through what we did again. Um, but I think it made us stronger people. And I think that we, like I just said, we get the chance to create a beautiful thing out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think, obviously it wasn't, for Clay and I, it wasn't our last year. So we did get to come back and, have kind of finish out our careers on the field. And for me, I was just blessed to even be reasonably healthy enough to halfway throw a baseball towards home plate to, say that I finished it out healthy. I wasn't, but yeah, I was good enough to go out there and throw some ducks. But it, I think back to, kids that went to my high school that when I was there, these kids were in, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And, our coach would bring them to practice. And, I was one of our captains and I was one of our better players. So obviously like the kids wanted to be, they wanted to be around the kid who was the pitcher and the shortstop and wanted to be around all the seniors and everything. And, you get to pour into these kids and then, you keep up with them, you talk to them, you give them advice, you go watch them play, you watch them take your program to higher levels. And then all of a sudden they're seniors and you're so proud of them and you're excited. And all of a sudden their season's over. They don't get to go to the state. They don't get to compete for a district championship or a regional championship or a state championship. And unlike the three of us, they don't get an extra year of eligibility. They are just done, and that is it. And like that breaks my heart. Like thinking about that, like first of all, again, that breaks my heart for those kids, but also it makes me feel like grateful that we did at least in this time get that extra chance, whereas other people didn't get that extra chance.
Yeah. And then I'll also say Kentucky was the only high school, the KHSAA, of letting kids play an extra year. Now, not for those. I don't know about the seniors, but kids now, because like I coached a kid in summer ball one year, and he plays and other kids like that I knew, like where I'm from, like are using an extra year. No, they don't. I don't think they don't do any school, but they're able to use that extra year. So that's good, but it's also kind of like, so I mean, that's good, but that's the thing for high school. It's kind of like thinking about what you just kind of alluded to, Lopes. It's like, yeah, it happened to us in college, but think about if that was like our senior year of high school. And think about kids of like, we played with guys that because how they played their senior year, they got offers in college. They got that opportunity. And there were kids that probably would happen to that didn't. So, I mean, I think that's the worst part of it, but everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, for sure. And man, I don't know what I would have done if my senior year had ended like that. I mean, we went to states and kind of got, we didn't win state championship, but you kind of got that Cinderella ending of, when you're captain and all the messages and all the things that you really want everybody to focus on of just working hard and giving everything you got on the field, pouring your heart out on the field, leaving everything you got out there. And when, I'm not going to mention the person's name, but there was a young man that was in my grade that wasn't very experienced playing baseball, but he was one of those kids that everybody looked up to, right? And he was a leader just off the field, even though he wasn't all that great on the field because he didn't really play, but he wanted to be around us. He wanted to be around his buddies, and he wanted to play baseball before he graduated and went off to college. So this kid, I had to pull him in the locker room a couple times because he was not necessarily steering these kids in the right direction. The kids were getting in trouble, and he was kind of being the ringleader of that, and maybe not necessarily being the ringleader and like all that stuff, but like they were looking up to him, and he wasn't coming down on them as hard as I think that he should have in terms of them getting in trouble and him kind of laughing at them getting in trouble instead of doing something about it. And I pulled him aside and I said, listen, whether you like it or not, these kids look up to you. And so I don't care if you got to fake it, but you've got to buy in, because if you don't buy in, the rest of these kids aren't going to buy in. They've been around me for years, and they're probably sick of listening to me talk, but they're not sick of listening to you talk. And if you buy in, they will buy in, and this whole thing will just go a lot easier. And when we lost in extra innings in the semifinals. That same kid, I'm down on my knees at shortstop because I'm sad. It's my last game. He picks me up off the dirt and he says, "It doesn't matter that we lost, buddy. We gave everything we had." That same kid. Like, that's how my season ended. That was all I needed to hear. It didn't matter that we lost. It didn't matter what happened. They bought in. Like, everybody on that team learned the lessons they needed to learn. They learned how to play the game the right way. And if I didn't have that, oh my God, I'd have been heartbroken. Like, I can't imagine how some of these seniors in high school felt when their seasons got canceled. But, I do want to transition to something a little more positive to end this podcast. I don't want us to be, sitting here all teary-eyed for the rest of the night. I don't want to do that. So I asked this question when Bruce and Andy came on the podcast. And I want to ask you guys this same kind of round robin thing where I want us each to talk about our favorite memory of each individual on this on this call. So obviously I'll talk about my favorite Clay moment, my favorite Thomas moment, Thomas, Clay, and myself, and then Clay, myself, and Thomas. So, we could kind of go back and forth. So if anybody wants to go first, if anybody has one right at the top of their head that they want to talk about, feel free, go right ahead. Floor is yours.
You go first, Thomas.
Let's think here. I mean, Lowe's pitching, right? He covers first base. He's like, I think it was it was a home game. I don't have no idea who he played, but you threw a really good inning. It was your first time back after getting hurt or something. I have no idea. You caught the ball, cover first base, get the out. You take the ball in your glove and just fling it in the air. And go about your business. And we're all just looking at that was at Asbury.
Asbury, yes.
And I'm like, who is this dude? And you come in the dugout and you go, "Daddy's home."
Well, like now you're mixing up two different.
When we played Brian last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are two. Yeah, for sure. The Daddy's Home one has been told on this channel before, and I don't know if you guys know this, but somebody actually captured a video of that moment. There has been some angel of the Lord himself somehow got that moment on video, and there's no audio, unfortunately. You can't hear me yelling it, but you can very visibly, if you read my lips, it's clearly that moment. So I don't know who you are out there that caught that on video, but I want it, and I want to archive it, and I want it for the rest of my life. But
for this podcast.
that could be my outro. Yeah. But no, the glove flip thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you this. I don't think I've said this before, but so I'm ridiculously slow. Everybody who plays at Johnson knows this. Clay and you, Thomas, could both beat me on one leg in a race. I'm very slow. And so there was, right before that play, there was a ground ball to second base, but it was over toward the first base side. So I don't remember who was playing first base that day, but they went to get the ball and they couldn't get there. But I think it was Franklin, or obviously he was a freshman shortstop, but I think he was playing second at that point. He fielded it and he had to spin and throw. So he didn't see me. Like, he was just throwing it at the bag. And I'm so slow that I got to put my head down and not look up to even make it to the bag on time because I'm that slow. And when I looked up, the ball was here. Like it was at my face. Because he's not seeing where I'm at. He has to spin and throw. And so I literally went and just caught it like this because I thought I was going to die. It was just a straight reflex. And then I stepped on the bag, and I think I just all in one motion went and just tossed it and I don't know if that was adrenaline because I thought I was going to die from the ball coming at me that hard or what. But yeah, that was definitely I think that was a turning point in I look at that as a turning point in my college career because obviously freshman year I pitched horrible. And that was like the first, like I came in bases loaded, nobody out the inning before, and then threw another scoreless inning that inning. And I kind of feel I was like, all right, I think I'm starting to figure this thing out. So that was definitely a great moment. So I appreciate you talking about that.
My favorite Clay moment was not even the year. I played probably his 5th year when he struck out the kid for Tacoma Falls and started probably cussing out their dugout. Let's go! Just letting them absolutely have it. Absolute BDE energy. The man was invincible for probably 10 seconds long, no question. I love it.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. I think you might have stolen my moment. I got to come up with another one now. So go ahead, Clay.
Yeah. Oh, so my I got 2 moments for you, Lopes, that I remember, both from last year. So the same one is that same game that Thomas talked about. Well, I'll say that. No, I'm going to switch it up. So one of the funny ones to me, it's probably not funny to you, was the end of the year when that game at KCU I started. I think it was like the 3rd inning or something. And the first 2 guys get on. I forget. So it's like first and second. I remember like they're the bottom of the order, like towards the bottom of the order. I'm like, all right, like I knew they weren't going to bunt. And the guy was going to bunt. He was a bigger guy. And I was like, all right, I really need a double play ball here. So I said, like, first pitch, going change up here. He's going to roll over. So he does. He rolls over and hits a ground ball right at you, Lopes. And you block it up, and it hits you right in the gonads. And you get it, and you flip it to second. So we get the out at second at the last second. And then Lopes is just on the ground screaming in pain. And the kid at third is trying to go home. And then like, I get the ball and they call time and Lopes just screaming there. I think that was that was just in the moment. I remember me and Shelton looked at each other and me and Shelton had our gloves over our face. Like we're trying not to laugh. So that was a funny moment. Now the best moment would be that same game that Tom was talking about when you at the walk-off against Dakota Falls, we all just tackled you in the outfield.
Dude, Andy gave me a freaking tombstone pile driver. I literally had a cut on my forehead for like.
I remember like Andy tackled you, you got up, and then me, Will, and Blake all tackled you again. That was the best moment. And then Thomas, I got so many stories. I don't know. I think
I know which one you're gonna say.
Keep in mind, Clay, this is a piece.
So I'm gonna go off baseball here, which is just funny. So you might not even remember this. So this is our freshman year. We had New Testament with Sue Stratton, Lord bless her. She's
Old
great,
Testament.
Old Testament 1. Sue Stratton, my bad. Old Testament 1. She's a great teacher, great woman of God. Lord bless her. And we're sitting there. It was me and you. And we're sitting next to White, Luke, and Pruitt. And we really don't know them at the time. We're just like they transferred in. We're all on the baseball team. And I remember she's sitting right in front of us because we had to sit in front of the classroom. And she goes, it was our first day of class on Tuesday. She's like, on Thursday, you have a 500-word essay. And you just go, shit. Just yelling in the class and we all laughing. But baseball-wise, I think the best was that tournament game against Bluefield. You threw 6 innings.
Yeah.
That was BDE energy.
I thought you were going to say I slid in the first base. I thought that was going to be your story.
No, I was going to say that one. No, I was going to bring that one up. When you did that, Derek got his clipboard and threw it. What the hell? What was he thinking? What is he doing?
Jeez.
Oh, God. Oh. Yeah, I didn't know about that first one. That's
That one,
hilarious.
I just remember that one was always. I don't know why I was remember that was funny. But no, on the no. That one. Then the other one I have to say, which was the funniest one. I'll say here's the best funniest one. This one we had. Now we had New Testament. And,
Oh no.
me and Burke are sitting there front row in the corner. We're in the bigger classroom, and your seat was in between us. And you walk in 5 minutes late, and you're blaring music, and she stops talking. She stops her lecture. You sit down, and you're playing music, and we're all just standing there. We're all just listening to your music. You're playing Post Malone. And then she walks up and just smacks the table as hard as she could. Just turn it off.
Bro, I was eating animal crackers. I sat down. I didn't even take my backpack off. I just sat in the seat with the backpack.
You sat down. You just started eating animal crackers. She slams it up. Stop it! Turn it off. And then you just keep on eating animal crackers. AirPods out.
Oh God. I wish I had more classes with you guys, man. I had like one with Clay, and I don't even remember if I had any with you, Thomas. I think I might have had like one or two.
We had.
I still won't forgive you for we had a run because you didn't take your AirPod out during chapel.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I
Dude.
won't forgive you on that one.
I'm sorry.
We had a run.
I'll hold it to you. No, dude. We had Dr. D Lopes, one class.
Right. Yeah.
I was one. Anyways.
Yeah, that's awesome. Go ahead, Clay. What were you gonna say?
I was saying that. I remember that New Testament was so funny.
My Lord, that's awesome. Well, I suppose then I will go. Clay, you stole my favorite Thomas moment. That moment at Bluefield. I mean, that was. I think that might have been all of our favorite moments. Like everybody that was in that dugout, that might have been all of our favorite moments because like we watched you pitch and we all root for you. We all think that, I think we all in universal agreement wanted you to get more opportunities and because you work so freaking hard, dude. Like you worked so hard and you got in the gym and you were grinding away and you'd gotten better and you weren't getting chances. And I mean, I pitched in that game, Clay. I don't know if you remember that he replaced me and I think I gave up 6 runs in an inning. Like I pitched horrible. I couldn't do anything. I had nothing that day.
Because that was the tournament at Oakland City, right?
Yeah. And and then Thomas comes in and just starts shoving. And I don't want to just steal your moment completely, because obviously you already talked about it. So I will talk about one specific moment in that game that was my favorite part about Thomas pitching. And I think I might have even said that this was my favorite moment during my senior day. Like that was my speech. I did. It was because, and I think it was the last inning, or it was that or the second to last inning. I can't remember that Thomas was pitching, and he strikes out a guy. I think he's got like 9 Ks at this point. Like I don't know if the spirit of Nolan Ryan jumped into your body before you went out there, but I've never seen you strike out so many guys. I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And then you just did this, like you like perked up like a meerkat, and then you just went. And then just did like a big old headband and just kept walking towards the dugout. And I was like, I don't know what that dance move was, but it's awesome. I don't care. You are a god today. Like it was just it was so funny, dude. I was just sitting there. I was like, I don't know what that celebration was, but whatever it is, you've earned it, man. That was
the breakfast food at the hotel, man. That's what it must have been.
maybe, yeah. And then my favorite Clay moment, I think it was the one that Thomas talked about earlier. So the other one that I remember was you finally getting your AB at KCU, I think it was.
Yeah,
and we were just all excited for you. And then you just go out and get hit by a pitch, and it was like, oh man, that sucks. But what's awesome about it is that we were all just so fired up to see the POs get to hit that we ended up putting up like 11 runs in the last inning. We almost came back and beat them. Which
we had the tying run at home plate for the last out that game.
Huh?
Yeah, we had the tying run at home plate. I'm pretty sure for that game.
Yeah, I mean, we were down like 14-1 or 14-0.
Yeah, we
ended up putting up like 11 or 12, whatever it was in that inning, and ended up almost coming back. And so, Clay Turpin sparked that rally with the PO at bat hit by pitch, and it was just man. And both of you, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was saying Andy almost killed it because he struck out after me. Maybe if he didn't strike out and he got on, we would have won the freaking game. But
I got to be honest. I think I deserve a lot of blame for that because I looked at Andy and I said, listen to me. You have been waiting for this moment for your entire career, because he would tell me at least like once a week, like, I just want an AB. Like, it's all he wanted. He would tell me like at least once a week. And he finally gets one, and he's in the on deck circle. And I said, come here, listen to me. You can do one of two things and I will be okay with it. You can either swing as hard as you can 3 times and just miss by 1,000,000 feet, or you can hit an absolute nuke. Those are the only, if you go up there and try and like just slap a single to the right side like I do when I bat, you're the worst. Like, this is your one chance, mom's spaghetti, like, let's go after it. And he just went out there and swung as hard as he could and missed the ball by about, 3 body lengths. But, so maybe it's my fault. Maybe he would have gone out there and had a little better approach had I not told him that. But so I'll take some blame for that. But honestly, with you guys, man, I don't even think of like you guys as like a one specific favorite moment. Like, you guys just always just kept things loose, and you always made me laugh, and you guys just always just made things fun, on and off the field. Like, my favorite memories from you guys is just your constant presence of just loving baseball, even when times were just horrible. I mean, there were times where we didn't have a field. We were practicing in a 108-degree gymnasium that was falling apart. Like, just
had black
all
holes.
this stuff. Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, or you had to, drive 40 minutes to get to a field that all of us hated, and then drive all the way back. And by the time we were done playing, none of the restaurants were open and all that kind of stuff. And
I will say, I never drove. Josh always drove me. So shout out to Josh.
Fair enough, man.
For all the gas money.
I drove Lopes.
You did drive me freshman year, and I appreciate that. That was a big help. But
we were the party van.
That's right. That's right. But no, you guys are just always so fun and always just, so kind and just willing to just, you guys just loved being there and loved being around the guys and just being able to play baseball. Like, that's my lasting memory of you guys, is like, just no matter how tough times got, no matter how weird things got, no matter how frustrated you were individually with either your performance, the team's performance, just life in general, you guys always were just, the life of the party in a way. And not even like the life of the party, but just like, you always like I could always rely on you guys to like make my day better. Like, that is what I will always remember from you guys, from playing with you guys. And that's why, like, Thomas, when you decided not to come back, I was like, what am I going to do without Thomas? Like, I literally don't know what I'm going to do without Thomas coming in my room at 11:30 and asking me for pistachios. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do without you doing that. Like,
hey, man.
Like, like, it was just always so, like, you guys are just always so awesome, man. But all right. I mean, I am out of questions. So unless there are things that you guys want to talk about specifically that I didn't get, we didn't get to, or anything you guys want to ask me that you haven't had a chance to ask, feel free to do that. But if not, that's all I have for you guys. So the floor is yours.
No, man. Thank you. All love. Thank you for having us on the podcast, man. Love to do it again. It was a good time.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate you, love you, Lopes. You're always a guy, like you were saying, that I could still talk to this day if I have any issue. Just either text or call, and I know you're going to pay attention and give me advice. So I always will appreciate that about you. Same goes to you, Thomas.
Yeah, got y'all's back.
For sure. I love you guys too. And all right, well, that is all for today's podcast. I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Appreciate it.
Hey guys, me again. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the Lopes Goes Last podcast. It means the world to me that you decided to stick all the way to the end. That's super cool. So thank you again. And if you really, really like what you see, I'd love for you to subscribe, like the video, and share it with all your family and friends, because, this is my passion project. This is what I love to do, and I really want the sucker to grow. And the only way that can happen is through you guys, is if you guys can help me out. So again, if you like what you saw, please subscribe, like the video, share with all your friends and family. That's the only way this is going to grow. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.